Hello everybody, Roger here says hey. So in my video yesterday about European football explained for Americans, a lot of you guys commented that I should be watching this video that we're going to do today. The one from yesterday kind of was lacking in some certain areas. Even though I learned a lot from it, there were still a lot of holes in my knowledge that I was hoping to get out of the video, but didn't quite get there. So, smiley face, ha, 22L, or Hazel. Is that a play on a word that I'm not getting? Anyway, he says, as other comments have already asked, you should really watch European soccer in 4 simple steps. The video remains true to the title, and it says Europe, but it applies to every continent. It works kind of the same way everywhere. I subscribed to this channel because of the history videos. I never expected some football content, but I love it. Keep it going. This channel did kind of start out with a lot of history content. We're still doing history content, so don't worry about that. But we have expanded now into sports, which is something else that I really enjoy. So I'm glad you're enjoying it as well. Hopefully this video is going to give me a little bit more context going into my live stream tomorrow of England versus Scotland. Hopefully this will kind of break down kind of how the European football system works, maybe explain some of the rules too, I don't know. So the best way to find out is just to get into it and watch.
Welcome to Understanding Soccer in Europe in 4 Simple Steps, a guide for Americans. Although from the outside it may seem complex and confusing, to understand how soccer works in Europe, you really only need to know 4 things. Number 1, each country has its own soccer league. Seasons run from August to May, in which each team plays every other team twice.
That is a long season, by the way. I'm probably going to be pausing it here and there during this video, so I apologize if you get too annoyed at that, but you know, I have to ask these questions or comment as it's happening, or I'm going to completely forget about it. Yeah, August to May is a very long season. Usually our seasons over here last the most half a year, but usually it's more like 4 or 5 months, something like that. Although, you know what, baseball season goes from like April to October, so, you know, that's equally as long, I guess, when I think about it.
Seasons run from August to May, in which each team plays every other team twice, once at home and once on the road. Games are divided into 2 45-minute halves, and when the game is over, the winner is awarded 3 points, the loser 0, and in the event of a tie, each team gets 1 point. After each team has played all the other teams twice, the team with the most points is crowned champion of the league. They get a big trophy, a parade, and the season is over. There are no playoffs.
Okay, so what happens if you have a team that has like equal... Is it possible for there to be 2 teams with the same amount of points at the end of the season? Or is that not mathematically possible, you know, based on the matches and stuff?
Of the league. They get a big trophy, a parade, and the season is over. There are no playoffs. Sort of. But more on that in a minute. Before the books are closed on the season, there is still one small bit of housekeeping to be done. Number 2, relegation. We'll use the German league as an example. Every year, when the German league has concluded and the champion has been crowned, the 3 teams with the least amount of points are kicked out of the league. This process is known as relegation. The 3 vacant spots are subsequently filled by the top 3 teams from Germany's 2nd division. And unlike, say, baseball in the US, teams in the 2nd and subsequent divisions are not owned by teams in the top division.
Okay, so my question about this is, are the bottom 3 teams in the better league not still better than the top 3 teams in the lower league? Because that's kind of the American way of thinking about it, I guess, but maybe, you know, there's a lot about our sports system that I don't think is really fair, to be honest. So maybe this is like a more fair way to do it. So I guess I'm just trying to like wrap my head around the logic of having like a relegation system like this. I kind of like it though, because it's like he in the other video mentioned, it's more of like a meritocracy type thing where you have to earn your spot to get into the league. You're not just placed there, and you don't get to stay there even if you totally suck. So maybe this is actually a better way to do it than what we do with our sports over here. And to be honest, there are teams that are in lower leagues here that could beat the worst teams in the higher leagues, so I get it. So maybe the top 3 in the lower division are actually better than the worst ones in the upper division. So I guess that's the logic behind it.
If the Pittsburgh Pirates or Oakland Raiders had to fight at the end of each season just to stay in the league, what if instead of coasting to the bottom for better draft picks, they were fighting to the bitter end to avoid the $40 million revenue loss that relegated teams suffer in the first year alone? Not to mention the fact that in England, 9 different teams have gone financially insolvent within 5 years of relegation. Okay,
Wow.
interesting enough, you're thinking. But what about that whole lack of playoffs part? Number 3. Each country also holds an elimination-style tournament, referred to as a cup. But instead of being held after the 9-month league is over, cup games are scheduled in between league games, normally in the middle of the week. One additional perk about the cup system is that teams from all levels, down to semi-professional and even some amateur teams, are invited to play, and if they do well, can progress, and occasionally even knock off a top team. So every year, these midweek elimination games continue until there are only 2 teams left, who play each other in the cup final. After 90 minutes, a cup champion is crowned, they get a trophy, and a parade. So, between the league and cup games, we get a great picture of who the best and worst teams in each country are. But wait a second, you ask. What would happen if the best teams from each country in Europe all got together and played each other? Good idea. Number 4. The resulting competition is called the UEFA Champions League, and it is without a doubt the single greatest club competition of any sport anywhere in the world, period. Think of the NCAA tournament, but with better quality of play, more than double the fan base, and quadruple the enthusiasm. And yes, Europe even has their own version of the NIT as well. So, through a complex and drawn-out process, teams from all over Europe compete just to qualify for this tournament. And starting each September, the top 32 teams are put into 8 groups of 4. Each team plays the other members of its group 2 times, once at home and once on the road. Come December, the winner and runner-up from each group move on to the knockout round.
Okay, so this structure that he's talking about here, this is what we do in the NCAA tournament, which we call March Madness over here. So I have something very familiar over here that I can compare this to help me wrap my head around it. And he's going to the round of 16, we go to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4, and then you have your final with the 2. But this is not what's going on now, or is it? Is this the Euros that's going on now? But it's not going on in September, like he said. But the one going on now is called Euro 2020, right? So are they doing this one now for 2020 and then they're going to do another one in September for 2021? Is that what the deal is? Because that was really, really confusing to me why they're calling it 2020. I think last year they just weren't able to do it, right? Because of, everything going on. So maybe they're squeezing it in now. That might make sense. Maybe.
And this is where club soccer is at its finest. Teams are paired up individually and again play 1 home and 1 away game, with the winner from each pair moving on to the next round until only 2 teams remain. The Champions League final is then held as a single game each year in May. And unless it's the World Cup year, this is the most important soccer game of the year. After 90 minutes, a champion is crowned, the trophy is awarded, parades commence, and all clubs go on break until the madness fires back up again in August. So, to review. Number 1. Each country has its own league. Number 2, the worst teams are kicked out of the league and replaced by the best teams from the next division down. Number 3, throughout the year, each country also holds a playoff-type tournament called a cup. And number 4, the UEFA Champions League is a tournament involving all of Europe and is the most important competition in all of club soccer.
Okay, so you guys were right. That was way easier to understand than yesterday's video. Although yesterday's video wasn't all for naught, I did actually get some stuff out of that, and it did go into some stuff that this one did not, so it wasn't a total loss. But I really appreciate the suggestions for this one. It does help me understand a little bit more about the system, and it does kind of help me kind of wrap my head around it so it doesn't seem quite so complicated. And I have a little bit better context, like I was hoping I would, going into the England versus Scotland game tomorrow, which I am live streaming starting at 1:30 my time, which is going to be 7:30 in the UK, or 19:30 I guess, as you guys use the military time. But so if you want to join me for that, I will have the game on kind of off to the side watching it, and then we'll be kind of chatting during the game, so you guys can have my stream going if you like while you're watching, or maybe you don't want to get distracted by what's going on the screen. But I will be asking a lot of questions, I'm sure, during the match, so hopefully in the chats you guys can answer that stuff for me. Anyway, so to recap, in England, for instance, you guys have the Premier League, which is the top league, and the Champions League is the one right below that. And so at the end of the season, relegation happens between the Champions League and the Premier League, right? So you have your bottom and your top teams swapping leagues there. I also found that really, really fascinating that the cup system will invite even like amateur teams to come and play. And you guys let me know that there are thousands of teams in in England, and I'm sure every country is like this as well. Every city, every little village, every little town has a team. And so that's really, really cool that you might get a chance to play in the cup and play some of these like big teams. Yeah, over here we have nothing like that. We have our professional sports, and then our amateur sports is college stuff, which you guys don't have over there. So we just have kind of like a different amateur system, I guess, but it's honestly presented like almost professional sports. So it doesn't really feel like it's an amateur thing. It feels like it's at a professional level. The play is not quite as good as professional, but it's still really good. So it's just different, you know. But the amateurs, like our college players, would never play a professional team. So we don't get to mix it together like you guys do over there with this. And again, I also just found it really interesting that you are playing these tournaments all throughout the year amongst the regular season games as well. For us over here, we kind of wait until the end of the season to place teams in like certain seeds in our end of the season tournament. So you kind of have to like earn your spot based on your you know, league record at the end of the season. So our tournaments are kind of merit-based in a way, just in a different way, I guess. At least now, like when I start learning more about this, I look on ESPN, maybe I can kind of decipher a little bit more about what these games are about and what's going on. So anyway, Roger here, and I thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't done it yet, make sure you like and subscribe. And I also have links to my social media and my Discord in the description of this video and in my pinned comment if you're interested in any of that. Make sure you stay tuned for more soccer stuff. We've got more stuff coming your way tomorrow, including my live stream, so I hope you will join me for that, and we will see you next time.